Can I just say good afternoon to everybody again? Welcome to the session 4A, and I'm very excited about this session. I've heard great things about the work that's been going on in terms of expanding primary care. So can I introduce everybody to Jane? I'm sure Jane will introduce herself and explain to us what you've been doing.
Hi, we've got Sue on. Sue's up first from BSOL Training Hub, and then myself. So I'm Jane Hubble. I'm the lead nurse for primary care at Birmingham and Solihull CCG, and my background has been in primary care for more years than I care to say, really. Nearly 30 years as a GPN and then an AMP before coming into the CCG. And over to you, Sue.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And my name is Susan Brooks, and I am Birmingham and Solihull Training Hub lead nurse. One of the aspects of my role involves collaboration with higher educational institutions and primary care practices to provide nursing students with practical placements where they can gain the clinical experience to meet their NMC standards. So for my part this afternoon, I'm going to look at the importance of providing and increasing the student nurse placements within general practice and provide an update on our current status within Birmingham and Solihull. So I'll just share my slides with you. Bear with me a moment. Have you got those? Are the slides there anymore?
Yeah, it's there.
Yes, so that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, so far be it from me to be the bearer of bad news, but these headlines will be a familiar sight to you all, really, unfortunately. And we're fully aware of the need to promote our workforce sustainability in an effort to address these issues that are portrayed here. So one of the ways of tackling these issues is by offering student placements within our practice areas. And this will go some way addressing stereotyping and preconceived ideas regarding and surrounding general practice nursing. And we're finding this is really quite a prevalent issue still, as we've witnessed at careers events and in talking with our pre-reg students. So at the Training Hub, in collaboration with our HEIs, we've been addressing this and having discussions with the students and trying to give them a more realistic and updated idea, really, of what a career within general practice nursing could mean for them. In a way, we have been victim of our own success, really. We put out an expression of interest to 220 second year students at Birmingham City University in the latter end of last year, and we had over 80 students showing an expression of interest to come and work with us in general practice. But we need to see this number keep on rising. But we need to do this really by working together and offering the placements to manage this interest. So why is it important to host students? Well, at the Training Hub, we deal with many queries from undergraduates and return to nursing students regarding training and support with career development. We still hear from students who are convinced, absolutely convinced, that a good ward experience is what they need before they apply for a position. And a large majority still see it as a job that you take when you're ready to retire, unfortunately. This image and those ideas are slowly being addressed, and we can see that from the expression of interest stats that I've just shown you. But we need you to help boost and sustain our fabulous workforce. We know how fantastic the nurses and the practices are, but we need help to be able to prove it and evidence this. So the idea of growing your own workforce has become a lot more prevalent. And if a student has worked within a practice for a few weeks, they're already familiar with ways of working, and working relationships have already begun to develop. The support of the Training Hub and the universities is always available at all stages of the placement for both you and the student. And I quite often have student feedback where they're all absolutely amazed at the skills that are involved. And I hear so many times that, you know, staff are really going to miss the student because they're like one of the team now. And we're, you know, that's music to our ears. But being involved in student supervision and assessment is also part of the nurses' NMC requirements, and SSSA training counts towards revalidation. And it encourages reflective practice, as the process also questions your own knowledge and your own practice. There are opportunities for personal and professional development, and they are in abundance currently. Induction programmes, fundamentals of general practice nurse training, fellowship nurse offers for nurses are all available to develop the confidence and capability of the newly qualified member of staff. And on top of that, you also get paid a tariff. So as we know, money talks. So like you all, my job is a challenging one, but luckily I do enjoy a challenge, and I'm faced with these statements on quite a regular basis. But the fact of the matter remains that the workforce needs to be sustained, and students need to have their interest acted upon and the opportunities offered to them. It's a catch-22 regarding staff numbers, as small numbers of applicants apply for job roles that have been advertised for months. But on the other hand, I get practices calling me, you know, for have I got any staff that would be interested in posts? But unfortunately, perhaps they're a practice who hasn't offered any student placements at all. The student will slow the nurse down initially whilst they're finding their feet, but little things like calling patients in, making small talk, gaining trust, and making the patient feel at ease are all the softer skills that they are experienced before we've even got started on the practical skills where the student can help. Space has always been a difficult challenge, especially in the current climate, but we're problem solvers, and we always manage to get around this. During COVID, we had a lot of issues regarding PPE provision for students, and this was one of the reasons why we had a reduction in placements. But extensive meetings have resulted in PPE being made available to accommodate student need, and luckily we haven't had any issue with that at all during that time. In my role as lead nurse, and with the support of the university involved, there's always ongoing support for the placement and also the student to action any issues quickly and effectively. I think that the last statement here speaks volumes in itself, but it's in the bigger picture, it's the long-term benefits that we need to focus on really. But this is a luxury of hosting students. If they enjoy the experience, it leads to further placements in the future. And the concept of grow your own is fantastic, as they're already familiar with your surroundings and with the practice itself, and the transition is much, much smoother. This, along with the opportunity of the fellowship offer and the fundamentals training, which Jane will speak to you about in a minute, is producing practitioners who are determined and aware of the potential that general practice nursing can offer. We continue to find ways to deal with and overcome all of these challenges. Prior to COVID, we managed 51 practice placement areas in BSOL, including placement pathways, which allowed a mental health student to trial a week of primary care and vice versa. This proved to be very popular and very well received, and this year we hope to offer a learning disability nurse pathway within general practice placements. So this slide is just a breakdown really of the work we've done and we've managed to achieve since COVID. So it was a really challenging time for us, and we lost 100% of our placements overnight really. But we managed to place 4 students into general practice placements in November 2020, rising to 8 in January, and currently we have 9 students out on placement across BSOL. But when you think of all the potential practices across our footprint, there is so much more that really we could be doing. We are thankful to those practices who've taken a leap of faith to help us place students who are so desperate to experience general practice. We offer support from both the training hub and the students designated university with the required documentation, and this currently consists of a welcome pack, which we have a template for, a placement educational audit, service level agreement and the financial forms to be able to achieve the tariff, and these documents are valid for 2 years. We've also updated our SSSA training a few weeks ago, and offer this to staff as a virtual session currently. But I do absolutely love a field trip and would love to come out and do when I can in person to be able to support this process. So basically, it's really about these elements really of trust, partnership and cooperation, communication and networking, and supporting and sharing and working together. So that's it from me at the moment, but thank you for listening. We hope to work with you in the future to allow students to experience this, what I feel is an amazing domain of healthcare. So I'm now going to hand you over to Jane, who will continue the presentation for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Bear with me while I just share my screen. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. First of all, apologies. This is my colleague's presentation. She's been pulled into COVID vaccination clinic work on a 6-month secondment, so she can't be here today. And I really want to give her credit for working with Sue and the university for really developing this really innovative and scheme for student nurses, and certainly it's attracting a lot of student nurse attention. So this is the BSOL STP General Practice Connect scheme that we have. We have early, mid and late career fellowships across for GPs and newly qualified general practice nurses, the mid and late career for those already in practice as part of our retention resilience schemes. So in a joint project with the Training Hub and Birmingham City University, we wanted to promote general practice as our first career destination, and this is one of the ambitions in the general practice nursing 10-point plan, which is has been a national scheme that came out of the General Practice Forward View, and 10 points on that, and part of it was about promoting the value of general practice nursing and certainly seeing it as a first career destination. And as Sue has already alluded to, many students are under the false impression that they will be de-skilled if they come out to general practice, that they will lose some of the value of their student nurse training, and we really have to work hard to remove those myths. And certainly evaluation from students coming out into general practice has been excellent, and one of our practices within BSOL won Student Nurse Placement of the Year a few years ago, and that included all placement experiences in acute, community and primary care. Okay, so the Access to GPN joint project. So a planned live interactive event which moved to a virtual format on the 2nd of September last year, and it was via the BCU Moodle webpage. So there are interactive virtual sessions with team members and guests. So lots of opportunity for questions and answers. And what I'd love to see is that students were really engaged with those on the call, really wanted to know about terms and conditions, and wanted to know about the experiences, the pros and cons of working in general practice, all sorts of questions that came to light. Then we wanted to collect not only the presentations, but resources so that they went onto one site. At the time, this was hosted by BCU, but as you'll see later, it's now being transferred to BSOL Training Hub, and I'll explain that as we go on. So for the first event, we had 98 students register for the event and participated throughout the sessions. And there's 3, as a result of that, are now employed within the BSOL STP area. Okay, one of the other ambitions was to involve employers. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a bottleneck at this point, and I know other systems are experiencing the same thing. So we've now generated, through the excellent work of Sue and her colleagues, we've generated interest in primary care as a first career destination. Students are certainly interested, and if they have experienced primary care, many of them want to come back in and work. What we need to do, and we need to continue to do this now, is to engage employers who constantly ask for experienced general practice nurses in their adverts, and this puts a lot of students off. And certainly through these events, what we were able to do is to advise future potential general practice nurses to ignore that experienced nurse requirement and to still send their CVs in to try and describe to future employers that they understood what general practice nursing was about. If they had experienced general practice nursing in their student nurse experiences, then that's 3 to 6 months worth of experience there that they could promote. Also, many employers, although through comms and engagement, and my primary care colleagues will understand that it can be very difficult, but a lot of employers still don't know about the fundamentals or the fellowship schemes that we run, and so we're able to advise students of these schemes so that it can actually take these schemes to the employer and advise the employer that, okay, yeah, I'm not experienced in general practice nursing, but I can gain the relevant education, training and experience through these incentives through NHS England, through health. So we're sort of tooling them up, ready and preparing them for having those conversations with potential employers. So there is some work to go with employers, and a lot of work around career development and workforce development. And Sue did talk about Grow Your Own, and we've got some excellent organisations across the STP where they have grown their own, where they take on healthcare assistant apprenticeships, and potentially they could grow them to advanced nurse practitioner level, or into the world's their oyster really. In some organisations, they really want to invest in their staff. Okay, so future planning. What we'd like to do is to broaden our audience, and we've got other universities within Birmingham and Solihull, and we've got other access points into nursing, so through the college as well, for apprenticeship nurses. So in the future, Birmingham and Solihull Training Hub will be the host for this site, so that students then can go and access, and employers can go and access all the information on this site, and that includes advertising vacancies, it includes the resources for students, but also includes information for employers who might want to take on a student. Okay, that's the contacts of myself and Sharon, and Jane is the lead at the Training Hub. I'm sorry Sue, you're not on there, but these aren't my slides, so apologies for that. If there's any questions, we're happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Can I start off with a question? Having done it once, would you do it differently next time? Is there anything that you think, if we started over again, we'd do it differently? Or things that you'd wished you had done which you didn't?
I don't think I don't think I would do anything differently, because I think it's about evolving and learning as you go along. And this is a brand new concept. What I love about this is that it's collaborative between several organisations, and we're all learning together. Initially, for example, it was the university that were hosting all the information on the Moodle site. Now it's gone to the training hub. Now, whether that whether that evaluates where student nurses access it less, then it might be something that we have to change again, or both places. Yeah, it might be individual universities and the training hub. So I think we're all learning as we go along. Sue, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, originally when we started the Moodle page, we had to do it with the support of BCU, so it was quite exclusive. So that was an issue. But as Jane said, you know, we rolled that out, so it's available now through the Training Hub website. So, you know, as Jane said, really, we're evolving all the time and responding to demand as things change. I mean, this year has been such a difficult one for everyone, well, the last 18 months. So I think we've just had to hit the ground running and just adapt the best we can. And we evaluate all the time to make sure that, you know, we are hitting our targets and we are providing the service that is required.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions they want to?
There's one in the chat. Have there been any issues in the conversation to attract GPNs with their salary parity with the hospital staff? Yeah, lots of conversations. Yeah. As you can imagine. So for those of you who aren't aware, terms and conditions within general practice and primary care are not necessarily in line with NHS terms and conditions. For many, it's a negative. For some, it's parity or just above. And so we have very frank discussions with students to advise them that this may be the case, and that they need to consider this when they're in conversations with practices. And actually there are pros and cons to working in practices. Some people prefer the smaller organisations, and some people prefer sort of the smaller relationships that you can have within general practice. And the variety of work that you can do as a general practice nurse is a real attraction to some people. I think the swings and roundabouts there, but I think one of the things that we can do is to try and prepare students for those conversations with employers, and certainly ask them to discuss about how they can have incremental increases in their pay terms and conditions over time is often the conversations that employers like to have.
I can see there's a question there about placement tariff being a barrier. We have found that, but I've been in post for 2 years and I've seen a shift from, you know, people are more aware of workforce sustainability now. So whereas when I was going out with initial discussions did seem to focus a lot around tariff and how much that would be, it has moved. I have seen a shift in ideas really about, you know, how a student placement can sustain the workforce rather than the money that it brings in, sort of, you know, the long-term effects rather than the immediate, if you like.
So we've had another question about has this been escalated nationally within the CNO. I'm not entirely sure what you mean. Has this, is it the project? Is it the terms and conditions issue? If it's terms and conditions, this is yeah, absolutely has. So our national lead is Karen Story. She's working within Ruth May's team. The terms and conditions is a massive issue across the whole of general practice and primary care. So yes, definitely it's been escalated. Thanks.
Well, that's great. Thank you both very much for your presentation. Just to let everybody know that all the presentations and the recordings of each of the sessions will be housed shortly on a SharePoint site. I will send you the link out so that you're able to access it. So if there are any of the other sessions that you wanted to see, you can catch up at a later date. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.